Oh, hello. I'm Ali Nan. As you know, I'm an assistant professor in English literature, co-editor of the Global Age magazine, and an essay mentor at KIPS CSS network. Today, you have caught me unawares reading a book, and I'm sure that you're also fond of reading. You must be fond of reading stories, and some of you must be fond of storytelling. So, here I have The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant. I'm aware that most of you would have read it. Some of you might have read some reviews about this book, and some might be a bit acquainted with Will Durant. And for some, Will Durant might be a new name, but he's not a new name. He wrote this book almost a century ago in 1926. This book is a remarkable book which deals with writers from the age of Plato and Aristotle, coming down in chronological sequence to Dewey and even Schopenhauer, Bergson, and many other philosophers, the great philosophers of the age of ideology, coming down from 18th to 19th century and then to the 20th century, which are even significant, their thoughts are even significant today in the postmodern era. So, what is this book about? Why this book is so interesting? Why am I talking about this book? Why am I holding it in my hand and talking about this book with you? The reason is that this book provides you the foundation to study the philosopher's text if you want to read them. Because reading philosophers can be a major challenge. Philosophers might be a bit challenging, a little difficult to comprehend at times. This book is remarkable indeed because it deals with these philosophers in a time sequence, so it is easier for you to comprehend and understand that how the age of ideology developed and how the age of ideology was inspired by the Greek philosophers, by the age of philosophers, the great Greeks even before Christ, and how they had influenced the Greek thought, later on the British thought, then the European thought and the German thought, and we can continue and on philosophers, and how it came down from Germany to France and from England and maybe coming down to Soviet Russia and even the age of Mussolini and Hitler. Philosophers have always held sway and they have had a significant influence on politics, on literature, and almost on every aspect of life. Well, when we read this book, the interesting feature about this book is when you'll open this book, you will find that every chapter begins with a dedication to the same philosopher. This is quite a unique feature. Another interesting feature about this book is that the chapter ends with criticism on that specific philosopher. So it provides you the other side of the coin. You discover the other side, that how different sections of society, how different sections of intellectuals have approached different philosophers. Several philosophers have been criticized along with being appreciated. So you get both the angles, both the sides, and you come to know that what has been the approach toward philosophers from different sections of society and from different intellectuals as well. Another important feature is that the prose is extremely lucid. You will enjoy it. It is extremely communicative. It provides you the big picture. It tells you about the circumstances in which the ideas of those philosophers had developed. This book is the foundation to approach the text of philosophers, and most importantly, you will also find out that few writers have this ability that they can write for non-specialists. Even if you are a non-specialist, the story of philosophy will draw you into the world of philosophy. Once you are drawn into the world of philosophy, you start enjoying it, you rejoice it, and his wit will never cease to dazzle. That is more important. और फिर आपके लिए एक और बात, because I have often communicated with you in English, but थोड़ी सी उर्दू में बात करते हैं कि फ़लसफ़ा हर ज़ुबान में अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन फ़लसफ़ा हर ज़ुबान में मुश्किल भी लगता है. इंग्लिश हमारे लिए, अंग्रेज़ी ज़ुबान एक चैलेंज भी होती है, लेकिन इस बुक को पढ़ते हुए आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि अंग्रेज़ी इसमें आसान है, but it is so communicative that you will also learn how to write communicative English so that others can understand as well. This book will then take you to another book by the same writer, Will Durant's The Pleasures of Philosophy. And as you are fond of reading, there are pleasures of reading as well. Pleasures of Philosophy is an attempt at a consistent philosophy of life. This is the subtitle of this book. और जब हम Pleasures of Philosophy की बात करते हैं, the Pleasures of Philosophy is divided into 9 sections. The first section is the introduction. The second one is logic and epistemology. Third one deals with metaphysics. Fourth one deals with problems of morality. The fifth one deals with men and women in its own essence, most importantly aesthetics, which is the essence of life, I believe. And then we move to the philosophy of history. 7th section is about political philosophy, and the 8th section is more significant because it deals with religion, and 9th one is the envoy. What is there in the first section? The first section opens with a prelude. I'll read a few lines for you कि आपको थोड़ा पता लगे कि how interesting it would be to read. He writes about philosophy. Once the strongest men were willing to die for her. Socrates chose to be her martyr rather than live in flight before her enemies. Plato risked himself twice to win a kingdom for her. Marcus Aurelius loved her more passionately than his throne, and Bruno burned at the stake for loyalty to her. Once throne and papacies feared philosophy and imprisoned her votaries lest dynasties should fall. Athens exiled Protagoras, and Alexandria trembled before Hypatia. A great pope courted timidly the friendship of Erasmus. Regents and kings hounded Voltaire from their lands and fretted in jealousy when at last all the civilized world bowed before the scepter of his pen. The book tells you that all the civilizations bowed before the scepter of the pen and philosophy. The Pleasure of Philosophy is an interesting read when once you are introduced with the basics of philosophy, or once you know that what philosophy stands for, then it would be interesting for you to read when he deals with epistemology, when he deals with men and women, and more interestingly, he also deals with critical questions about how man has started to work as a machine. He wrote it almost a century ago, but now when we are living in the 21st century, we are dealing with similar questions. We are also dealing with questions related to morality, politics, immorality, and most importantly, the idea of aesthetics, the sense of beauty, how we admire things and how beauty can affect our personality. There is also a discussion of biology as well, the impact of biology, the world of biology, the age of biology. So in a way, philosophy extends to natural sciences as well. He also discusses that how philosophy may be considered as one of the basics that can expand towards being a science in itself, although it stands apart and opposite and poles apart, I must say, to science. So I hope that you will try to find out these books. These are easily available. The Story of Philosophy, The Pleasures of Philosophy, and you must tell us about your story once you read these books, that what was your experience? Was it a pleasure to read? Was your story as impressive and effective as others have told us, or was it even better? Because I know there can be nothing worse about or bad about it. So do comment and tell us about your stories while reading The Story of Philosophy and The Pleasures of Philosophy. I hope you will be back again for another video with us, because I'll be coming back with another book review. Till then,